Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we give praise and thanks to Allah for coming to the black man and woman in the wilderness of North America in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. We thank him for raising in our midst the promised Messiah, the exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we can never thank them both enough for their love and mercy in giving us a real, live human being who is the prime example of man's potential to become God. We thank them for the perfected representative of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Again, Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to Self-Improvement, the basis for community development, the only course of its kind in the world. This course is designed on the guidance of Allah and given to us through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, through his representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. These units of study offer the exclusive method for successfully undergoing the spiritual and mental resurrection that is only possible through a direct confrontation with the self-accusing spirit that resides in every human being. Tonight we will undertake part 3 of our journey through Study Guide 15, the characteristic of humility. As the calamity that we are experiencing continues, mental and emotional stability have become increasingly important. Many of us throughout our lives have devised ways to cope with the difficulties of life, but for the most part, that which we manufacture in our mind has been at best a temporary band-aid for the vicissitudes of life. One of the principles that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lays out very early in this course, in Study Guide number 3, is that Allah, God, actually created man to face difficulty. These things don't just randomly occur in your life, so you should never feel overwhelmed or that you are under some form of chastisement because every time you overcome one difficulty, you face another. It is the will of Allah, God, that we do this because overcoming difficulty builds character, and best of all, it gives us access to the truly valuable things in life that will really make us happy. Last week we read, and hopefully you were able to discuss, the harmful effects of pride, which is a disease of the heart. While the so-called experts of this world seek a means of dealing with the coronavirus, Allah has offered us the cure for a number of spiritual, mental, and emotional diseases which are at the root of physical sickness because they weaken the immune system that would otherwise be able to ward off and defeat any harmful virus or bacteria that invade the body. If you and I are spiritual and mentally healthy, then we can think clearly. You are the highest form of life on earth, and you are vested by Allah with the ability to reason. You have also been given the highest divine gift of willpower. Thus, if you can think logically, you can either develop or you can find the solution to any problem. And then, through your obedience to and your faith in the Supreme God, you can call upon and arrange forces in this universe to execute your plan. So why do we need to acquire the characteristic of humility? Look at Minister Farrakhan's language. Acquire humility. We're not born humble. We have to make an effort to acquire this beautiful characteristic. To acquire something means to learn or to develop it, to obtain it for yourself. Humility is not weakness and it is not cowardice. It is one of the best things we could ever do for ourselves because, as the minister wrote in last week's reading, quote, acquiring the quality of humility is a sure means of salvation. Without it, we may find ourselves unable to follow instructions that will save our lives. A sure means of salvation. Look at that. Without this trait, we can lose our lives. So if we are out acquiring mask, then trust and believe. As much as we may need a mask, we need humility 1,000 times more. The minister gives us in the study a particular skill we can work on that will help us become humble. That is the art of listening. We were born able to hear, but we have to learn to listen. He writes, the Holy Quran teaches that only they who listen accept. It is difficult to listen to someone when we think we are better than they are. And he gives an example of that type of thinking. I will read his words. Those who were in the class with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad refused to accept the instructions of Master Farad Muhammad to hear him because of the disease of pride. Today, the impediment that hinders those who were students and followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from obeying the command concerning Minister Farrakhan is pride. Now, I will close with one additional point before we go into our study. The news that black people are dying at an alarming rate due to complications from coronavirus is not a surprise to us. Are you surprised? Minister Farrakhan has declared publicly that black people need to be quarantined away from white people so that we may heal from the adverse effects of slavery. We have never been able to heal from the horrors of slavery and Jim Crow because we continue to live among our tormentors. The virus is not a cause. It is an effect. The virus is an effect of stress from being black in white America, from stress of our living conditions, which in turn produce the very preconditions that the virus takes advantage of, such as obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney problems, just to name a few, not to mention a horrific diet. Now, these living conditions that we're in that cause the preconditions that lead to a higher death rate from coronavirus are the result of our continued rebellion to the will of God, which is that we separate from his enemy. Death in this hour is from a weakened immune system that can be overcome only by distancing ourselves from the children of our slave masters into a state or territory of our own. More on that next week. Beloved, don't be left in the shadows during this time. Subscribe to your digital edition of the Final Call newspaper. Just go to finalcalldigital.com. Please enjoy your study tonight, and may Allah bless us all with his protection and with love and the light of understanding. Assalamu alaikum.